This is what theaters look like across the world, and it just keeps getting worse. The memes, the look of people, like, does this actually look like a happy person? It's always in the eyes, man. It's always in the eyes. If you cover up the mouth and you look at just the eyes, no, you see evil, in fact.
Welcome back to Pop Flash. And trust us, you're going to want to hear this, because according to Rumours, Disney's Snow White disaster has taken a wild new turn. Reports say that Rachel Zegler is out, completely dropped from the project. And in a shocking twist, Zendaya is stepping in. Yes, you heard that right. Zendaya, one of the biggest stars in Hollywood, is now reportedly set to replace Zegler as Disney's iconic princess. But here's the burning question. What really happened? Why would Disney make such a drastic move this late in the game?
You can talk, you can say you work a job, whatever. You cannot talk about trade secrets and certainly not compromise our investigative journalists in the field. What, so no free speech?
Well, let's just say, the behind-the-scenes drama is even juicier than you think. According to insiders, Disney had no choice but to cut ties with Zegler after the catastrophic fallout from her Snow White casting. The first remake attempt was an absolute disaster. Fans were furious, critics ripped it to shreds, and the box office? A complete embarrassment. And Zegler? She was right at the center of it all. Allegedly, Disney was blindsided by just how badly audiences rejected her version of Snow White.
This is what theaters look like across the world, and it just keeps getting worse. The memes.
But the real nail in the coffin? Her own words. Rumors say that Zegler's public comments about the original 1937 Snow White only made things 10 times worse. When she called the original movie outdated and dismissed its classic fairy tale romance, Disney's most loyal fans were furious. The backlash was immediate and brutal. According to sources, even Disney executives were caught off guard by just how badly Zegler's remarks backfired. Allegedly, the studio was desperate to fix the PR nightmare, but nothing seemed to work. Behind the scenes, things got even messier. Insiders claim that marketing teams struggled to promote the film because audiences were already turned off. Disney reportedly poured millions into reshoots, trying to fix the film's disastrous reception, but it was too little. Too late.
Why not write some new movies? You guys sit around, you have billions of dollars. They keep going back and rewriting the classic.
I came back, the losses were around $4 billion a year.
Well, I know this point has been made, but this truly is the worst casting maybe in the history of the film industry.
According to Rumours, the film was doomed before it even hit theaters. And when the numbers came in, total flop. So now, in what some are calling a last-ditch effort to save the Snow White brand, Disney is making a drastic change. Enter Zendaya. With her massive star power, undeniable talent, and ability to draw in global audiences, insiders claim Disney sees her as the only way to salvage the project. But will it work? Or is this just another desperate move from a studio trying to outrun a disaster? And here's the real shocker. Was Zegler actually fired because of the flop? Or was Disney just looking for an excuse to push her out? Insiders claim the decision came straight from the top, with executives scrambling to undo the damage from the last film. But here's the thing. Did Zegler even see this coming? Or was she just as blindsided as the fans? One thing's for sure. This story is far from over. So, what do you think? Is Disney making the right move by bringing in Zendaya? Or is this just another Hollywood disaster in the making? Insiders claim that Disney was in full-blown crisis mode after the disastrous reception of the Snow White remake. Executives, according to Rumours, were in panic meetings day and night, scrambling to contain the backlash before it spiraled out of control. The pressure was overwhelming. This was supposed to be a major win for Disney, but instead, it was turning into one of the biggest flops in the studio's history. Sources say that behind closed doors, Disney execs were desperate to find a way to salvage the situation. Every single attempt to control the narrative had backfired. Fans were furious, critics were relentless, and the controversy just wouldn't die down. But then, allegedly, someone in Disney's inner circle pitched an idea that made everyone sit up and listen. What if they replaced Rachel Zegler entirely? At first, insiders say there was hesitation. Could they really cut ties with the actress who had already been the face of the project? But then the numbers came in. Box office projections were abysmal. Early test screenings had reportedly been a disaster. And worst of all, Zegler's own words were working against her. Her controversial comments about the original 1937 classic had completely alienated Disney's core audience. According to Rumours, executives couldn't ignore the backlash any longer. Disney's once loyal fan base was outraged at how the beloved fairy tale had been reimagined, and many blamed Zegler for the film's failure before it even hit theaters. Sources claim that execs were left with no choice but to cut their losses. Rachel Zegler had to go. Now came the next problem. Who could take her place? According to insiders, this was when Zendaya's name entered the conversation. The moment it was suggested, Disney's top brass reportedly jumped at the idea. Zendaya was everything the studio needed: an A-list actress, a proven box office draw, and a star with an army of devoted fans. She had already worked with Disney on Spider-Man, and her roles in Euphoria and Dune had cemented her status as one of the biggest stars of her generation. But it wasn't just about her talent. Sources say Disney saw Zendaya as a clean slate. Unlike Zegler, she hadn't publicly criticized the original Snow White film. She wasn't tied to the controversies that had poisoned the project's reputation. With her on board, Disney could completely rewrite the narrative. And just like that, Rachel Zegler was out. Behind the scenes, insiders claim that the decision was made swiftly and quietly. According to Rumours, executives didn't want a media firestorm over the recasting, so they worked behind closed doors to make the transition as smooth as possible. But even as they tried to keep things quiet, the news leaked, and the internet exploded. Fans were divided, and social media erupted with debate. Some people were thrilled by the casting change, saying Zendaya was a perfect fit for the role and exactly what the remake needed to succeed. But others, not so much. According to Rumours, Disney purists were furious. They felt that this new take on Snow White was straying too far from the classic version they grew up with. Some believe Zendaya was too big of a departure from the traditional fairy tale aesthetic, while others thought the entire concept of remaking Snow White had already failed beyond repair. Now, the debate is raging online. Will Zendaya's undeniable star power be enough to win over the fans and make this remake a box office smash? Or has Disney just made another massive mistake? One thing's for sure, this controversy is far from over. So, what really went wrong with Rachel Zegler's Snow White? According to Rumours, this film was doomed from the start. From the moment Disney decided to modernize the classic fairy tale, backlash was immediate and relentless. Fans felt that the studio had stripped away everything that made the original so magical in the first place. Allegedly, test audiences weren't impressed. Many viewers claimed that Zegler's portrayal of Snow White felt too forced, too serious, and completely lacking the whimsical charm that made the original 1937 character so beloved. The joy, innocence, and warmth of Snow White seemed to be missing, and instead, audiences were met with a version of the character that felt out of place in a fairy tale world. According to insiders, this wasn't just a performance issue. It was a fundamental problem with how the character had been rewritten. Rumors say that Disney had deliberately removed key elements of the classic Snow White story to appeal to a more modern audience. But instead of winning over fans, this decision backfired spectacularly. The controversy surrounding Zegler's comments only made things worse. According to Rumours, her remarks about the original 1937 film being outdated sent shockwaves through Disney's core fan base. Longtime Disney lovers were furious at what they saw as disrespect toward one of the company's most iconic films. Social media erupted, and fans began turning against the film before it even had a chance to prove itself. And then, the box office numbers came in. Disaster. According to sources, Disney executives were in full-blown panic mode. The early projections had been bad enough, but the actual numbers? Even worse. Ticket sales were dismal, audience reactions were brutal, and critics tore the film apart. What was supposed to be a grand reimagining of Snow White had turned into one of the biggest embarrassments in Disney's history. Behind the scenes, executives were allegedly scrambling for solutions. Could they save the project? Was there any way to recover from this public relations nightmare? According to Rumours, Disney had to think fast. They needed someone, who could turn the tide and bring back audience interest. And that's when they made a game-changing decision. Enter Zendaya. Sources claim that as soon as Zendaya's name was brought up, Disney executives saw their golden opportunity. If there was anyone who could erase the negativity surrounding this film, it was Zendaya. She was a global superstar. She had undeniable star power. And most importantly, she wasn't tied to the controversy. Allegedly, Disney wasted no time making their move. They quietly phased Zegler out, knowing that keeping her in the project would only fuel more backlash. The studio's entire marketing strategy was reworked behind closed doors. Suddenly, Zendaya was the new face of the film. Insiders say this was a last-ditch effort to salvage what was already being called one of Disney's biggest failures. The idea was simple: replace Zegler, rebrand the film, and hope the public would forget about the controversy. But would it actually work? According to Rumours, Disney execs are taking a massive gamble with this move. While Zendaya's star power is undeniable, the question remains, will fans accept her in the role, or is this just another desperate attempt to cover up a disaster? One thing's for sure, Hollywood is watching, and the stakes have never been higher. Now, let's talk about Zendaya's take on Snow White, because according to Rumours, this version is going to be completely different. Disney is allegedly going all in on a fresh approach, making Zendaya's Snow White stronger, more independent, and more empowered than ever before. But here's the real question: can Disney pull this off without alienating fans? Insiders claim that while Zendaya is bringing her own twist to the character, the studio is reportedly trying to maintain the fairy tale essence to avoid the backlash that sank Zegler's version. It's a tricky balancing act. Allegedly, Disney wants the Snow White to feel modern and powerful, but they're also aware that audiences still expect that classic Disney magic. According to Rumours, Zendaya herself has been deeply involved in shaping the role. Sources claim that she's been working closely with Disney to create a version of Snow White that feels fresh, yet familiar. But is that even possible? Fans are already divided. Some believe Zendaya's version will be a huge success, while others worry that this is just another misguided attempt at forcing change onto a beloved classic. And here's where things get even more complicated. The backlash hasn't stopped. Despite the hype surrounding Zendaya's casting, rumors say that many Disney purists are outraged. They feel that replacing Zegler is just another sign that the studio is panicking, scrambling to fix a film that was doomed from the start. Some are even calling it damage control disguised as innovation. And it's not just about the fans. Industry insiders are watching this situation closely. The decision to remove Zegler and bring Zendaya was a bold move, but was it actually a smart one? Or is Disney just digging itself into an even deeper hole? Allegedly, Disney had no choice but to bow to public pressure. Sources say that after the backlash hit a boiling point, executives knew that keeping Zegler in the role was too risky. But here's the problem. By making such a drastic change, they've now opened the door to a whole new level of scrutiny. Is this really a step forward for Disney? Or have they just made things worse? According to some insiders, this decision could make or break the future of Disney's live-action remakes. If Zendaya's Snow White fails, it could be the final nail in the coffin for Disney's trend of reimagining classic animated films. But if it succeeds, it could change everything. One thing's for sure, all eyes are on Disney now. Will Zendaya's version of Snow White win over audiences, or is this just another Hollywood disaster waiting to happen? Either way, the stakes have never been higher. And here's where things get even messier. Sources close to Disney claim that Zendaya's casting has completely thrown the production schedule into chaos. Allegedly, the entire timeline has been pushed back, and insiders say the studio is racing against the clock to rework the film. According to Rumours, Disney is pouring resources into making sure Zendaya's portrayal is flawless. But at what cost? The studio is reportedly scrambling to rewrite scripts, reshoot key scenes, and restructure entire sequences to fit Zendaya's take on the character. It's a massive undertaking, and some insiders believe this sudden shift could cost the studio millions. And let's not forget, there's a lot at stake. If Zendaya's Snow White fails to impress, it could be one of the biggest embarrassments in Disney's history. But if she pulls it off, it could be the redemption Disney desperately needs. But here's where things get even more concerning. Rumors say that some Disney execs aren't fully convinced this change will actually fix the problem. Allegedly, there are still heated debates behind closed doors about whether this rework will actually save the film, or just delay the inevitable. And what about the fans? They're still divided. Some are thrilled at the idea of Zendaya taking over, calling her the perfect choice to revitalize the role. But others, not so much. Many believe that Disney should have stuck with the original version, even if Zegler's performance was controversial. So what's the verdict? Will this film finally live up to the hype, or is it just another doomed remake heading for disaster? And more importantly, is Zendaya the right choice for Snow White, or did Disney make a huge mistake by dropping Zegler? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because this debate is far from over. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more explosive Hollywood gossip you won't hear anywhere else, and this is just the beginning. Stay tuned to Pop Flash because the drama is far from over.